We've just literally witnessed West Ham be defeated against Wolves 2-0 away from home. Still, what can we say?
Well, it seemed that the Chelsea win was. I hope it wasn't a blip, but we certainly didn't seem to. We didn't play bad tonight, but we didn't play like we did against Chelsea. We just didn't seem to have pace again, did we? And it seems that our fear of losing Antonio for whatever reason. Let's hope it's not another groin injury. Let's hope he's just feeling the strain after being away for so long. It seems that that's hurt us again. Our strength in depth is just not there, is it?
No.
We seem to be. We played okay. I actually don't think we should have lost by 2-0, but we had no pace and we had no idea going forward. Again, we're devoid of our ideas going forward.
It wasn't the world's worst game, though. Like you said before we came on, it just so happened to end up crap in the end. But I thought in the first half in particular, it was a kind of, both teams lost possession. Both teams had a couple of okay chances. It was a bit of a nothing game. But we were in it. That was the main thing. We were in the game. That was
even at 1-0 at half time, we were in it.
Yeah.
And I thought, perhaps we would be a bit more forceful. I actually did think, I was saying to you in our WhatsApp chat that I thought we needed more pace, and I thought he'd bring young Holland on in the second half to give it an injection of pace, and he didn't. He brought Yarmolenko on, and Yarmolenko looked awful, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the team selection. Were we surprised by the team selection? I mean, we'd done the preview last night, and pretty much we knew that if Antonio was going to be injured, we knew that Sebastian Haller was going to come in, and we pretty much, I think most West Ham fans predicted probably what the starting lineup would be. So I don't think there was really any surprises there, and probably not many surprises with the Wolves side.
No.
But I mean, that's them equaled their record now for 10 consecutive games unbeaten. At the beginning of the season, still, I really thought that Wolves were going to struggle because they had the Europa League, but they're completely proving me wrong.
They've proven everyone wrong because I remember doing the league predictions before the season started, and we all said that we thought Wolves were going to struggle, and yet it's quite the reverse. We're struggling, and they're riding high, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, the team news got announced. Antonio's not made it. He's not in the squads. Bit concerning. We kind of heard a bit of news that he was obviously picked up something from that game. Maybe we've relied on him so much and had to throw him in the deep end and not have to. I mean, it's a shame that West Ham are having to do that again. As you said, still, we've got no strength and depth, really, and it's just a disappointing. It's a bit like we've been brought back down to earth again after this over-the-top victory against Chelsea. I mean, I don't think I got carried away personally. I was excited by the victory. Of course, we all were. But it's concerning. There's still concerns there, big concerns.
There are concerns. It seems, I said earlier, it seems that we're reliant on two players. We're reliant on Fabianski and Antonio. And when either of them don't play, we seem to suffer either in defense, one side of the pitch or the other. And that's the concern. And the irony, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking when I actually said this at the beginning of the season. I thought by shedding an awful lot of, an awful lot of the squad that I don't think were really worth staying at West Ham, and buying the couple of players that we did buy, I actually said I thought we were stronger in depth, and yet I couldn't be further from
the truth,
that. I know there's been speculation today about whether the board should be sacking Husilos for his purchases. And you do have to start questioning some of the purchases now. They're just not working out, are they? No. And we were all excited. I mean, we're all excited with the signings of players like Haller and stuff. And it's just not happening, is it? It's just. I think that's the biggest concern, that when we do lose some key players, we don't seem to have. On paper, we've got players that should just walk into the team and pick up from where the injured players left off. But in reality, it's just not happening. It's just not happening.
You mentioned there about those players that were coming in to the side. I think you're correct there. I mean, the player, Sebastian Haller, is a fantastic player. If you have watched them before previously at Frankfurt, you've seen how they've played to his strengths, and he is not isolated whatsoever up top. He's fed on a regular occasion. He was when he was there, and therefore that brought his style of play out. And unfortunately, it's a little bit like when West Ham go and buy this big player like they've done. They've not. We've always said it. Still, it's the final piece of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
It's or not the final piece. There's a few pieces we need to.
Obviously. I remember, you used to defend Hernandez, and say that we weren't playing to his strengths. And I always used to counter that and go, well, a decent striker or a decent player should be able to adapt. And now, with all the excitement with Haller, I'm beginning to. I get what you were saying now, with Chicharito, with Hernandez. But I don't. But
I don't doubt. No. I agree with you. I don't know. The thing is, I agree with you. I don't doubt the fact that Sebastian Haller, he's not. To me, he's not given enough. Still, he's not given enough. He doesn't look at a threat. Even he holds up the ball. Sometimes he wins the headers, but they're not. It's just nothing. And someone made a valid point last week. If this was Andy Carroll, he'd be getting ripped to shreds, mate. He would be getting ripped to shreds. Yeah. And I'm not trying to compare them, but
no, yeah, understood. But I think with Haller. Obviously, he's not confident. That most of the players don't have a lot of confidence at the moment. And you would have, and had Haller been in the win, I mean, actually in the most of the game against Chelsea, and he had that win under him, I think perhaps it might have given him a slightly different feel to today's game.
Yeah.
But I think. Like you said, when he was at Frankfurt, he was feeding off two other strikers. He was actually part of a 3-man strike force, and we don't have that. And we've actually bought a player. I think you might have just alluded to it. We bought a player. We haven't done our homework. Well, we've gone out and bought a striker, and he's not a striker that fits into our system.
It's a little bit like we were talking earlier this week, still about Cardosa. Like, he's advertised. If you think about the West Ham signings in the summer. You put the nail on the head there when you said we signed Cardosa, and he was advertised that he was going to be this next youth, fantastic quality player, challenging the centre halves. Whereas the more I think about it, the more I think that he was brought in probably to do what he is doing in the under 23s, but the board and the marketing team were just designed to make you feel like, yeah, we signed another player. There you go, West Ham fans. We signed, and we'll advertise it as the best young international hope that's out there. And we'll convince you that we've got enough.
And that's all very well having the best young international hope if he's ready to play,
the under 23s.
But I mean, we read an awful lot, when in social media about all these youngsters that we're buying for the future, and we're picking up all these free youngsters in the future, etc. And what I'm struggling with is why are we not buying players for the here and now? Because the players at Cardoso and Fornals, I just wonder if they are ready for the Premier League. They don't seem to be ready for the Premier League. Well, Cardoso, we know he is, and he hasn't played. But Fornals, ironically, Fornals has been playing okay the last 2 games. I think the Chelsea game was probably his best game for us so far. And tonight, he's not a winger, but he didn't do that bad. I think that what's a shame about today is that we didn't do that bad. We were a bit we were sloppy. We got hit on the counter attack for their second goal. Their first goal was just an unfortunate. It came off.
It was a shit goal. The first goal, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. It came off. We didn't clear it. Came off.
Snoddy was the wrong side of the player, I think, wasn't he?
Frederick's on the wrong side.
Yeah.
He was behind him, so he couldn't get a tackle in. Dodonka caught it, stuck his foot out, and then it just clipped Creswell and it trickled in. Yeah. And it was a shitty goal to give away. But I still thought we might have come back in it. I thought that we might have, maybe nicked a goal.
Sometimes I was thinking even during that game, when I was watching it, it just felt just blah. Like, there's one thing I could say, the game just felt blah. and there's no kind of West Ham player that gives me that sense of excitement. Like, do you know what? I'm going to bring him back up again, but the Payet, even when West Ham were getting defeated left, right, and centre, you had the Scotty Parker that would come and pick them up and drive the side. Like, we don't, and we know we've been having a debate in the group chat about Noble, and I mean, we can talk about. Oh, have we lost Stel? If we have lost Stel, I'll just keep going, guys, until Stel comes back in. Hopefully, you'll enjoy a single preview here, a review. Sorry, but my point I was trying to make was we've had exciting players over the years, and it's not been great to watch. It's not been fantastic in the last season, between last season and this season. Who's been our exciting players? It's been tough to watch. Someone that can drive, someone that can look around and go, do you know what? Let's drive forward. I always think to myself that with the record signing at the time, Felipe Anderson would be that guy, and I can see the comments, and they're stating that he's not. He's not up to scratch, and he's not. I can admit that he's not up to scratch. I do think that he still needs to be played through the middle consistently to give us a chance to be able to create something for the forwards moving forward. But the heads are down with the players. The squad looks a bit defeated half the time. Apart from Snoddy in the first half, no one was really going for it. No one was given 100% all the time, and I know that's something we always talk about as West Ham fans. I'm going to read some of the comments in here until Stel gets back on. I think we have him back on now. Let's just have a look. Yeah, he's here. Stel, you're back.
Apologies.
No, that's fine, mate. Don't worry. I was just explaining to people, and I was saying to yourself, Stel, that since Payet, Parker, just more recently in those kind of years, there's been no one that's really could drive, give the kick up the backside or drive forward, give something excitement, creativity. Just.
I agree, and I don't want to sound like I'm a Noble basher, but that's what I expect Mark Noble to do. He's the captain of the team. He's the one that's meant to G him up. Now, we heard on Saturday after the Chelsea game from Declan Rice that Noble got everyone together and gave them the, kick up the arse and a few swear words and got them psyched up for the game and said, we've got to do this. And great, that's wonderful, but it's got to happen on the pitch as well.
Yeah.
And I just, when we have that lack of, it wasn't even a lack of desire tonight. It was just seemed to be sort of like quite a lackadaisical sort of approach, quite slow. That's where I expect the captain to go, get off your fucking asses and get into the game and get stuck in. And we lack that. Noble's been a wonderful, servant to West Ham, but we're massively missing something in the centre of midfield. I mean, you could argue that we're missing, something around the whole pitch, but the centre of midfield, someone alongside Declan Rice that's going to sort of really get his foot in, get really stuck in there. And I know Noble does that every now and again, but I expect a midfielder and the captain of the team to be doing that all the time, to lead by example. Mm-hmm. And that didn't happen tonight. And I'm not saying it's just down to him, but when you do need that sort of player, Scotty Parker did that, like you said. Scotty Parker used to take a game by the scruff of its neck, and he used to put his foot in and really sort of motor on. And we've been crying out for a central box-to-box midfielder for quite some time.
But even during the crap teams of West Ham over the last, say, decade, or even a little bit more than the last decade, there's always been a player, someone that can light the pitch on fire. I can even go back to Craig Bellamy, just someone that can do something that's a bit different when the thing is out. I mean, the second goal that we conceded tonight just summed West Ham up perfectly. Well, it really did make it summed us up perfectly all over the park.
Well, you saw Yarmolenko losing the ball in the middle of the pitch, just stumbling all over it and losing possession, which gave them that inspiration to move forward and score the goal. And he's meant to be a class international player. Couldn't even control the ball, and he came on to make a difference, and he did. He made a difference in the wrong way, by losing possession, and giving them an opportunity to counter attack. And it's that's how sloppy we can be sometimes, and That's why we will lose more games than win this season because of things like that.
The concerning thing there still is when Yarmolenko lose the ball, the counter-attack play that Wolves have, I think they must have driven something like 6 players forward. They were desperate to do it. West Ham were jumping into tackles left, right and centre. They were just literally dinking the ball over each player. Yeah. Then the defenders were sliding into each other. And it was a bit of a calamity. Like, the whole goal was just a bit of a calamity. And it's just, it's the frustrating thing for me is just, I just don't really, I can't. 1 minute I think it's tactics, 1 minute I think it's, but you know what, still, it's coming down to the fact we just don't have good enough players, mate, all over the park. Consistent players. I mean, I don't even know if we've got a good, decent 11. On paper, we think we do. But I don't think we've got an 11 that are capable of playing together. And we haven't had an 11 that are capable of playing together for a long time. I mean, Welsh Hammer has made a really good point in the chat just now. He says, can you name a player we have signed, we have bought and improved? I mean, I can't genuinely think of a
bought and improved.
Yeah.
No, not for a long time. I mean, no, he's probably quite right there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I could probably name you players that each team have signed in the Premier League alongside us that have. And that's the concern side. I can name you other players from other teams that can do that. Are we being too negative still?
No, I think it's a bit disappointing that after such a decent performance against Chelsea, that we didn't go out there and give it the same effort tonight. But we weren't shit, if you know what I mean. But we weren't good, But and I think almost the writing was almost on the wall that when we found out Antonio wasn't going to play, we kind of wondered, well, where's that drive and pace going to come from? And Haller's not that sort of player, and we knew he wasn't going to give the same type of performance, despite the fact that he's a very gifted, talented player. He wasn't going to give that type of performance. Our balance is wrong, isn't it? That's what it is. Yeah. So the whole balance of the team is wrong. We don't seem to have. We are lacking. I'm upset. I'm not like, it's not like the last 7 games, before Chelsea, where we played shit and we deserved to get beat, and we got humiliated by teams by losing by 3 goals and stuff like that. So we didn't get humiliated tonight, but it was just disappointing that we just didn't go out there and give a bit more effort. It was like, it's almost as if we did the hard one against Chelsea, so we'll just we won't put as much effort in against Wolves.
It literally was like that. In the first half in particular, I thought Balbuena, I mean, he was looking up. This was the other concerning thing. Balbuena was pinging balls left, right and centre all over the park as a centre half. And you look to your midfield creativity players to potentially do that. I mean, people are coming in here saying we need a Grealish type of player. I mean, Grealish he wears the heart on his sleeve, and he's a
I've seen player. I've seen that comment, and that's the sort of thing I mean. We need a midfielder that's going to drive us forward. Yeah. We've got Rice that's going to sort of sit there and try and sweep up, help the back 4 out, and that's fine. But we need a player next to him that's going to really pick like you said before, picking the ball up and driving it forward and getting everyone else around them going, and the players we've got, Anderson, Fornals, they're all skillful players, but they're a little bit lightweight, and they also need that type of player to drive them forward, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for, so you're looking at one of the two between Rice and Noble and going, which one of you is going to get me going? Passing, like you said, Balbuena was the one pinging the balls, and it should be someone like Noble, getting the ball in midfield and pinging them across. We know he's capable of it, but he just hasn't been doing it of late. We need that sort of player in the middle of the park that's going to sort of get everyone else buzzing and ticking, and we don't have that.
Let's speak about Fornals for a minute. Ironically, I think he is getting better, slightly better. My biggest concern is, and I think every time we watch the game still, we always say it, there's always a static movement. So when West Ham player gets the ball, there's no one quick enough to think, I'll pass that ball quickly, I'll get that ball through there. And you can see sometimes the players like ball to feet quickly. And I think there was one point tonight when Fornals was through and easily, he never had the momentum going forward, but he was definitely 3 or 4 meters ahead of the player behind him. and he took too much time to think about it, and he then went to cross it. But at the time, the ball was back, and then it was out for a corner, and it was just like, if he had just put that in, would have Haller got the service, and
the one time that Fornals linked up well, what was that one where it was the corner, and him and Anderson sort of played off each other, and he struck it sweetly, and that's what you want to see on a regular basis. These guys are skillful enough to be able to do it, and one wonders why it doesn't happen all on a regular basis, and it's got to be down to either they're being told tactically not to play that way, or they're just lacking severely in confidence,
or they just can't. I just don't know what it is, mate. Like, I mean, again, someone in the comments is saying that Wolves didn't even go to full gear today. Like, they probably played in third gear and probably had 2 extra gears. They didn't even look like they were massively trying too hard, to be honest, mate. It didn't look like that kind of game. It looked like they could have. It looked like they turned up. They were comfortable. It looked like they turned up and went, yeah, let's go and win this game today. Like, let's just do what we need to do to win the game and get it done and get out of the way. And that's the way it felt as a West Ham fan, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I agree.
Positives to take, if we have to take a positive, was I thought personally Martin done all right in goal. I mean, he had a few good chances, a few good saves, and he commanded the box better. I think the defenders probably enjoyed that a lot more, and that's better for us to see.
Yeah, I think the 2 goals that were scored against us were disappointing, and you can't really blame Martin. And I think even though our defence are leaking goals left, right, and centre, I still quite like the balance that we've got with Balbuena and Bonner at the moment. Interestingly, I just wonder now. I mean, Diop didn't even make the squad tonight. That was interesting. He wasn't even on the bench. But I wonder what might happen on Monday night against Arsenal.
Can't help but feel it's going to change it again, mate. I really do.
And the point that you've been making for quite some time is we're not having a balanced team. Even if we've lost, keep the same team. And the only disappointing thing tonight was that Antonio wasn't available. Otherwise, he would have finally have kept the same 11 players for the first time in God knows how long. But you're right. I think come Monday night against Arsenal, I think he's going to end up changing it again.
And then even the substitutions, like, I don't have a problem with the manager going for it, but it was all over the shop. 1 minute, it's like Yarmolenko comes on, he's out on the wing, then he's up top. Another positive was we saw Nathan Holland, although I don't think he'd done much. I think he looked a bit lightweight, to be honest.
He looked lightweight. There was one opportunity where he just ran straight into a brick wall, and he's a young boy who needs to be able to know when to pass it and when to take it on. And he's still learning that. And when you do it in the under 23s, it's a very different kettle of fish to when you're doing it in the Premier League. He needs to learn, if he wants to be a top player, he needs to learn when to pass it, when to cross it, when to keep it, and so on. And that one moment, I think it was 5 minutes after he came on, he got the ball, he ran with it, and you thought, great. Walked it, ran into three defenders, and lost it, and it was like, come on, mate, you had players around you, don't try and beat every player, you've only just come on, get used to the game, get used to the pace, start passing it around, build up your confidence rather than trying to be the match winner, and he's got a lot to learn in that respect. But yeah, it was nice to see him, but he didn't do much.
Yeah. If you want
any other positives, I think maybe Fornals is beginning to find his feet.
Winston Reid's coming back from injury.
Well, let's not go there, mate. You are desperate, aren't you?
Listen, let's talk about the league. West Ham currently sit 13th in the league with 16 points. Played 4, drew 4, lost 7 after 15 games. We are only 2 points from the bottom 3, but equally 3 points from 9th place. So, I mean, up next is Arsenal. We'll do our preview. Sum up West Ham tonight, Stel, and
frustrating. I think frustrating. After what we experienced on Saturday against Chelsea, the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge was amazing. The fans were really behind the team. And after that, watching it tonight, and it just felt a little bit like it felt like it was Boxing Day after Christmas, where you're eating your 20th turkey sandwich and getting a bit pissed off with it.
Yeah.
And it was just frustrating. But I think Monday night, I think is going to be good, because it's going to be under the lights. We haven't had a game under the lights for quite some time, I think.
Yeah.
And I reckon it's going to be David Martin's home debut. Hopefully Antonio will be back. And I think you might see quite a different West Ham on Monday night. I think they're going to fancy. I think we're going to fancy our chances against them. And I know people are going to laugh at me after just seeing.
Screw them, mate.
Yeah, but after seeing us losing 2-0, but I think I've got a feeling about. I thought maybe we'd be lucky to get a draw tonight, but we didn't get that. But I got a good feeling about Monday, and it's interesting because when me and the lads were going to the game on Saturday, we had the same feeling against Chelsea. There was just something about that day that you just felt a little bit confident in, and I think we'll have that on Monday night. So disappointing. Get this one out of the way, and let's look forward to Monday.
Let's get some comments in from the live chat. Richard Walton, very familiar commenter, really loves me. Richard says Fornals is not a right winger. Is Haller and the new Hugo? To be fair, mate, Hugo never had a chance, so I mean we can't really compare him to that. Jaswinder has said 4 years moving into the new ground, and our best players are Noble and Antonio. That sums up how low we have progressed. I mean, he makes a point. I'm not going to say we're like at the worst, but I get the point he's making. Ashton is saying Haller is isolated. Where's the service? Yarma, if he doesn't lose the ball, cuts it and doesn't cross.
Yeah.
Haller and Antonio up front, drop Noble and play Anderson in the middle. That's an interesting comment. It'd be interesting to see how that would work. I think possibly for Anderson, he might end up being too deep, and he might end up being expected to do an awful lot more defensive duties as he has to do when he plays out wide. But I don't know if he's got the engine on him, hasn't he? And he's got skill. It's a no-brainer for me, to be honest. And I would like to see Antonio cause problems and give. I mean, we've got our star striker up, but let's support the guy and just see what happens. Listen,
he needs someone up front.
We need to stop conceding goals. There's no ifs or buts about it. But I don't think we've currently got what's there to stop us from conceding goals. So we do need to go back to the thing that you said at the beginning of the season: is we need to outscore our opponents. We have to make and we can't outscore our opponents by leaving a guy isolated up top. Good point there. Fredericks lost the man in the first goal. We all remember how Sullivan chased in Donker for several months before he joined Wolves. Typical West Ham thing. Did we sign the wrong Mexican Hernandez versus Jimenez? I think we talked about that last night on the preview. Jaswinder. I do like Rodriguez as well, but I mean, everyone knows what my opinion was on Hernandez. He needed to be supported. Players join us. We've talked about that one. Someone's saying here, Masuaku should have started in front of Creswell.
I don't agree with that one bit. Well, Creswell's decent, and he gets. I think he gets a bad press sometimes, and isn't he our top goal scorer at the moment as well, or joint goal scorer? Or he's got 4 this season, hasn't he?
He got 4. It was 3 he had, but
3 or 4, and I think Creswell's maybe Masuaku in midfield, but not in place of Creswell.
Ashton is saying Fornals has improved, but what's his best position? Only God knows.
Well, we've got too many number 10s, haven't we? We've got Lanzini, we've got Fornals, we've got Anderson. They can all play that number 10 slot. So one does wonder, and it does go back to our summer signings. Why did we buy another player who's a number 10?
Yeah.
When we've already, unless as we've said in the past, we thought Lanzini wasn't going to sign his contract and he was going to go. Yeah.
We are a very predictable team set up against. Everyone knows our frailties. Very hard for Holland to come on halfway through a game playing for this team. Listen, Ashton, mate, I'm not slagging off Holland. I just said, I just felt like he did look a little bit lightweight, and that's expected. And I don't think he should be chucked out of the squad whatsoever. I think he should be given a chance again. But that was a tough game to come into. So Yeah, no brainer. I can't see getting away from the fact that we need a new manager as soon as possible to lift the gloom.
It won't happen until the end of the season. You know, we will not get rid of Pellegrini until the end of the season.
Well, if you believe rumours that are kicking about, it's the Southampton game's the vital game, depending on what we pick up between now.
But he's won 3 points, or so for me, it sounds like the fact that he picked up points. My understanding was.
I was on the same understanding as you, but I think if he hadn't picked up those, if he now goes on this run of the next 2 or 3 games and loses them, then I still think it's a no-brainer. But I think if it was he'd lost the next 2 and then picked up points closer to the deadline that they've got, I just got a suspicion that if he does go on this run, I mean, I don't want him to be on this run. I want West Ham to win. But anyway, I mean, maybe we've got a gift of the gab coming up. I don't know. We've got loads of videos coming up with all the games we're due to play coming up to the Christmas period. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you get your comments in below. Let us know what your thoughts are on what we've said tonight. Bit disappointing. Some positives to take. Not the end of the world of a game today. I'm not going to go into meltdown like social media is probably currently doing this minute.
Yeah. I think if tonight's game, if some of our results before Saturday had been a bit better, tonight's game would have been tonight's result would have been one of those, so what sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's it. 2-0 against Wolves. Unfortunately, let's move on. Put it to the side, brush off, and move on. And we've got Arsenal at home on Monday night.
3 points.
Yep, and it'll be. I think that one's live on. Is it Amazon again?
I have no idea.
Let's just hope that Amazon up the game with their streaming facility, because my word.
Well, it went down straight in the second half.
Quite a lot of comments on the internet about it. Anyway, get subscribed to the channel. Make sure you follow us. Thanks for watching. Get comments in. He's been Stelt. I've been Anton. Come on, you irons.